In the quiet neighborhoods of Wichita, Kansas, fear gripped the hearts of its residents for over 3 decades. Families locked their doors, drew their curtains tight, and prayed for safety. They were haunted by an invisible predator, someone who toyed with their lives and laughed at their terror. He was known as the BTK killer, the man who bound, tortured, and killed his victims. But what these families didn't know, what they couldn't have imagined, was that this monster wasn't lurking outside their homes. He was walking through the front door, smiling, polite, and ready to install their security systems. This is the horrifying story of Dennis Rader, the BTK killer who sold safety while delivering terror. Dennis Rader was the picture of normalcy: a husband, a father, a devout churchgoer. He worked as a compliance officer in the small town of Park City, Kansas, enforcing local ordinances with an almost obsessive attention to detail. He was the kind of man you could pass on the street without a second thought. To his neighbors, he was quiet, polite, and unassuming. But behind that mask of suburban banality was a sadistic killer. From 1974 to 1991, Rader terrorized Wichita under the chilling moniker of BTK, short for bind, torture, kill. His crimes were cold, calculated, and brutal. He sent taunting letters to the media, boasting of his murders and daring the police to catch him. But what made Rader even more terrifying was how seamlessly he lived a double life. He wasn't hiding in the shadows. He was at the grocery store, the church pew, the neighborhood barbecue. He was right there, in plain sight. As fear of the BTK killer spread through Wichita, many families turned to home security systems for peace of mind. Local companies saw a surge in demand as residents sought to protect themselves from the faceless predator prowling their streets. One such company was ADT Security Services, where Dennis Rader worked as an installer from 1974 to 1988. Yes, the very man behind the killings, the one responsible for the terror gripping the city, was the one entering homes, setting up cameras, and explaining how to keep the BTK killer out. Imagine it. Families trusting him with their safety, not knowing they were inviting the monster into their sanctuary. And it was no accident. Rader used his position to scout potential victims. As he walked through their homes, he memorized layouts, observed vulnerabilities, and learned their routines. He smiled, nodded politely, and assured them they would be safe. All the while, he was plotting their demise. Rader's job gave him access to places most killers could only dream of. He didn't need to break into homes or stalk his victims from afar. He was already inside, installing their alarms, learning their escape routes, and earning their trust. One of his clients, horrified after the fact, later revealed they had hired Rader specifically to protect their family from the BTK killer. They had no idea that the man setting up their security system was the very monster they feared. In some cases, Rader even used his work uniform as a disguise. A man in a uniform is rarely questioned, even when he's standing on a stranger's doorstep. He would blend into the background, unnoticed, until it was too late. The BTK killer's crimes were as horrifying as they were methodical. His first known victims were the Otero family in January 1974. He broke into their home, binding and torturing all 4 members before killing them. Over the years, Rader would claim at least 10 lives, each murder more gruesome and calculated than the last. Rader documented everything. He kept trophies from his victims, wrote detailed accounts of his crimes, and even created sketches of his fantasies. To him, this wasn't just murder. It was theater. And the letters he sent to the media were like curtain calls, taunting the audience and reveling in the chaos he created. For years, Rader evaded capture, slipping through the cracks of countless investigations. But it was his own arrogance that ultimately brought him down. In 2004, BTK resurfaced after years of silence, sending letters to the media once again. He wanted the world to remember him, to know he was still out there, still dangerous. But Rader made a crucial mistake. In one of his letters, he asked the police if a floppy disk could be traced back to him. The authorities assured him it couldn't. Believing their lie, Rader sent a disk to the media. Investigators quickly traced it to a computer at the church where Rader worked. The evidence was overwhelming. After 30 years of terror, Dennis Rader was finally arrested in 2005. The arrest of Dennis Rader sent shockwaves through Wichita. The man who had installed their alarms, attended their church services, and enforced their city ordinances was the same man who had terrorized them for decades. Families who had once trusted him were left grappling with the horrifying realization that the BTK killer had been inside their homes, smiling as he plotted their deaths. In court, Rader showed no remorse. He described his murders in chilling detail, speaking about his victims as though they were mere objects in his twisted fantasies. He was sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms, but for the families of his victims, no sentence could erase the pain he had caused. Dennis Rader didn't just take lives. He stole trust. He exploited the very systems meant to protect people, turning safety into a weapon. His story is a chilling reminder that sometimes the greatest threats don't come from outside your home. They're already inside. What do you think of this horrifying case? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that uncover the darkest corners of humanity. Until next time, stay safe and stay vigilant.